All right, we should be good to go now.
Okay. I'd like to open the public meeting for the MBTA Subcommittee for the town of Bellingham, July 18th, 2024. All right, welcome, everyone. So we want to start off with a summary of our public outreach meeting from June.
Sure. Yeah, do you want to do it? Do you want me to do it? Or-
Yeah, I think pretty much everyone here was at the public outreach meeting.
I think
so
you're correct.
We
Yeah.
we appreciate everyone's attendance. I think it went very well. We hosted 2 meetings at the senior center. And we were able to kind of discuss our proposed plan. Sarah was there, from Barrett Engineering. Various subcommittee members, were in attendance as well. And I think, for the most part, all of the information was well received, and I think there was a fair number of people at the earlier meeting who were unaware of, the new kind of zoning bylaw changes and things that were going on. So very happy to have informed them of the happenings with the subcommittee and what we're tasked with doing. So I think overall it went well, and yeah, I think it will continue to, at our next meeting, just improve upon, and hopefully get more attendance,
Agreed.
to get the message out.
Yeah, I know one of the discussion items, especially at the first meeting, was how do we get the word out? And there were a lot of really good recommendations between the town messaging system, an ad in Bellingham Bulletin, all of these things before the fall town meeting to have one more informational session. But I agree with you too, that at the first session, and even a few people at the second session, it sounded like there was a lot of people that this is the first time they heard about any of the zoning mandates essentially, and what our proposed plan is to meet those regulations.
Okay, so I think, all in all, it was as successful as it could have been. I know we didn't have a lot of lead time up to the event, so I think we just need to sort of stay on top of our fall event, because I know like the Bellingham Bulletin and the Senior Center newsletter, like they have production deadlines, so we need to make sure we can get our ads in time.
Correct. Yeah, which maybe it would probably be good sooner rather than later to work on actually getting an ad pulled together so we can just send and submit. So eventually, at some point, we're gonna have to figure out the next date for our
Yes.
next outreach meeting. I think what I can do is I can get the date for that fall town meeting and basically work backwards from it based on the legal side as far as when the warrant needs to go in and when it, because since this is a zone change, I believe it has to go to select board to be recommended to planning board, and then planning board recommends it to town meeting, and I think it might go back to select board again.
It may go back to, it does go back to.
Yeah, it's an odd process, but we'll figure that out. So based on that approach, I can talk to town council and we can figure out the date for that outreach meeting.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do you think we should have 2? Have you thought of having one on a Saturday to maybe get more participation?
Not a bad idea.
Maybe at the library?
No, not a bad idea.
I'm not opposed to it if we think it will attract more people.
I think what we may want to do is look at potentially, and I don't know, being a town entity, what the price would be for an ad in the Bolton, but maybe have one ready to go in August for September, and then one ready to go in September for October.
Yeah.
Because I don't know if we'll catch the November one.
Right.
I'm
We
not-
might
I'm
even,
not
we
sure
might
what
not
the
even be
date
able to
is.
catch the August one.
I don't think we will either, but I think what we need is to have it out to them in August, so it can run in September.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
And I was gonna say, I think running it in September, that should be what we should aim for. I think August might be a little bit too early.
No, I don't wanna do it in August, I just
Yeah.
wanna have it to them in August.
Yep.
So it gets published in September.
Sure. Okay,
August, everyone is still away.
Okay.
all right.
One comment. Can we hear from the attendees what they thought of the event?
Yes, yeah.
Can I just say, oh, I'm sorry, do I need to be recognized?
No, it's your
No.
turn.
No.
Apologize. Can I just say that, as I said to, and to back up for a moment, thank you both Bill and Rob for coming. We had coffee and conversation on Tuesday, and Bill and Rob came, Tuesday to our coffee and conversation, and, left a very good impression, Rob. They were very happy to hear from you and what you had to say.
Oh, good.
They are very, very in favor of this, those that were there. The people that were at the first session, the afternoon information session that you did back in June.
Yep. June 11th.
Some of them had no clue as to what it was, but because we had been talking about it, one of them is the secretary on the Council on Aging Board. She said, I only came because Kay had been talking about it, and I wanted to hear what it was all about. She said it was the best information, very clear, very concise, and to the point, which I thought was, and she's very critical, so.
Okay.
Very.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Totally in favor of it. And what happens is that each one that was there is now in favor, and they are now talking to others. Because I just had a COA board meeting the other day, last Tuesday, and two of the ladies said, you know, can we help on that thing? I said, what thing? She said, that MBTA thing. I said, listen, give me your name, we'll let you know. So it spreads.
Yeah.
Yeah.
and word of mouth is your
It
best.
does. And I think we may keep referring to you at times. Because when you came in for the first meeting, your thought was entirely, as were ours, entirely different.
Oh, yeah.
But we did our homework, we did our research. And we've been able to change direction.
Mhm.
And I think referring to you may be helpful, like we did the other day.
Well, that was true. That did help because they were so surprised that we weren't in favor of it. I said, you had to be at that first meeting to understand why no was a big no. And then go to the second meeting and see how quickly turned. So, yeah.
A couple of things. Number one, my wife here has tried to talk to our condo board about having a meeting. They refused under the premise that if we're talking about town government, it's gonna turn political. And then somebody else is gonna wanna have a political rally. They blew it totally out of proportion, which is normal with old people. It's a 55 and older development. But I came up with something this morning. I was talking to Kay about it. If the town of Bellingham, and if it's optional to have another town representative, call either NBC, ABC, CBS, and get an investigative reporter to meet a group of people and let them broadcast what we're trying to do in town, which covers the other 130 some odd districts, and let them know what's going on. I mean, talking about a wide range of coverage throughout all of Eastern Mass. And it's gonna be very well organized, and you can't let a reporter get ahead of you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I would say in this instance, I would hazard to guess, the media would probably want to put something more sensational in the news, so I do a lot of media work in my job. So I'm happy to reach out to real estate media people from the Globe and the Boston Business Journal, if that's the route we want to take. Happy to do that. I can look into, I can definitely look into it. I think, you know, like ABC, NBC, probably less likely to publish something about such a small town, comparatively. But I think something more local or something real estate related, certainly. Although, as you were talking, I feel like we could maybe try to do, I don't know if people listen to that radio station, what is it, My FM? I don't quite listen to it, but,
Yeah, I don't either.
maybe others do, so we could try to get on there. And I will admit I don't watch the cable channel, but, maybe we could do something on the cable channel.
You're on the cable channel frequently.
Well, I know,
He's
but
kidding.
I don't.
All
think-
are.
I know, but I don't think people,
They don't
like,
tune in.
no, if it's like a different show, like, doesn't someone have a show on there where they interview?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I do. I've been on that.
Right,
And
so I wonder if that would be more helpful.
I think that would be
Okay.
perhaps, yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
so happy to look into both of those things.
Okay.
It'd be interesting to know what kind of reach they have and how many
Yeah.
people just kind of tune into a typical show.
Yeah.
You can highlight the controversy of people that are afraid of more building
Yeah.
and soothe their minds and tell them that it's over a long period of time, if it happens at all.
Quick response without really thinking about it. If you've noticed, most of the publicity is not for towns that are working to comply. It's for the towns that do not want to comply. So I don't know how newsworthy it is. Like Milton was very attractive. And you've seen blurbs in the paper and maybe brief notices on the local stations about towns that voted it down. But you're not seeing much on towns that are approving it. So it may not be a hot item for news, just to let you know. If we were voting it down, I think they'd be here in a heartbeat. But that's not the case.
Yeah. I mean, I know, I mean, I guess Shrewsbury had more of an interesting solution, but they're doing something similar, although not quite the same. And their plan was kind of focused in art, I forget, probably the Telegram, the Worcester Telegram, I would think. Anyway, yeah, some towns are getting into the media. I guess maybe this is more of a question for Dennis Frayne as well, because Rob, I think you would have to be representative.
Yeah, yeah.
And I would just need to like check with my PR team at work, but
Yeah, I think that, yeah, we just want to make sure, because unfortunately, as we all know, the majority of the things we see in the media related to MBTA is stuff that is going to garner readership, which is typically bad stuff, ooh, this town is fighting it,
Yeah.
or, you know what I mean, or it was voted down or something, so. But, I'm open to it. I can talk to Dennis about it.
yeah.
See.
And if we talk to real estate reporters, I have trusted contacts that I could look into. But like I said, it sort of all depends on, if it works for them and works for us.
Sure.
But, both very, very good ideas, though. I think that could be helpful as well. Yes.
What's the strategy, when you guys put together an ad for the bulletin? Is it just to lay the facts out, or is it to encourage voters to come out and help the town
I
comply?
thought it was more just to market the information session. I know Josie kind of said she liked the printout Rob did with the information on it. I just get a little nervous if we were to print a lot of information, people will look at it and say, well, I learned everything, I don't like it, I'm not coming. So that's my concern. So I think it really is just to market, like, hey, find more on our website, come to our information session, there's so much that we have to convey to you that like it's, unless someone wants to go and write like an article for the
Yeah.
bulletin, I feel like an ad is really just a placement for the information sessions.
Speaking of that, I don't know how it gets done. But if someone was to write an editorial for the Bellingham Bulletin, I don't know if they do editorials.
They might, I think Dennis said he might look into something like that, so we can
That may be
circle
an
back with
approach you
him.
want to look at.
Yeah. Good. So we have a lot of good ideas, and then I think one thing we talked about early on was a mailer. I don't know if we have a budget for a mailer. But that might kind of mitigate, you know, the issue with your neighbors not wanting group meetings in your.
I haven't given up on.
But if, you know, if we get a list of, because I know Larry has the list of registered voters, so I think we could, you know, do a mailer as well that is more, maybe has a little bit more information on it, but is still kind of pushing people to go to the info sessions.
As I said to you last week, if you can find a venue, let's say like the library, you have the residents from Unit Outland go to, I'll be glad to come speak. I think you can get others.
We would appreciate that. Could you assist us in getting the library?
As a board member, I think anyone can request the library.
If you want to, rather than the library, if they even want to come here,
Yeah, I could probably
reserve the
look at that.
room or something, but we can look at the library, but we can.
How many
Yeah.
people can you actually get in there?
In that big room on the other side, I mean,
Yeah,
like,
it's a-
like 50?
Yeah,
More
it's
than that.
It's a good, because it's bigger than this room, or it's about the same size as
Okay,
this
it's worth a
one.
try.
Yeah, and if you have groups of people, like if you're on the, what's that group, the Women's of Today, or like some other, you're in the Lions Club and you wanna have the Lions Club members come in, we can do one-off
Mhm.
sessions with people, and they, you know, if they're not interested in coming to the planned sessions, but you wanna get us in front of a group, you know, Rob and I know enough to be dangerous. We can convey the message to different groups of people if that works too. Yes.
We have, Bellingham Day coming up, August, what, 8, 9, 10
Yeah, right.
in August, the carnival and all of that. I just happened to think of this. I was wondering maybe if we had pamphlets that we could pass out. If we have a table at that.
Yeah, a couple of years ago, Jim, well, more than a couple, before COVID, Jim had a tent for the planning board. I had to volunteer for it. I mean,
Oh, really?
yeah, and we sat there and handed out information.
Yep, we took 2-hour shifts.
Are you sure you're not making this up?
No, I
Make-
swear, Jim
make me
had
work
asked
on a
Brian
weekend?
Salisbury. No, Jim had a
Yeah.
tent and it was just information about the planning board.
All right, if this isn't true, I'm gonna find out about it, and I'm
Well,
just
it's
telling you,
true.
I don't do well in the heat, so.
Neither do I, but I will
That's why we had
sacrifice.
the tent.
Okay, fair enough.
Yeah, so I don't know if you can talk to the
Oh.
organizer. Is it still Kelly, Grant that organizes it?
I don't know, I can figure that out though.
Yeah, because if we could get a tent, I'm happy to volunteer some time. Yeah, and we can get some stuff printed out.
All right.
Yeah.
Not to get off topic, I don't know if there's anything else, but I know our consultant is on.
Yep.
Yes, we
Zoom.
can move on.
So I know that next item is the, I think it's been brought up before about potentially looking at just an alternative overlay location, just in case for some reason there's some issues with the compliance model, which Sarah, I can, I don't know if you want to take it from here.
Yeah, hey everyone. So yeah, Rob is he basically hit the nail on the head. Like in our original scope, we had the budget for more modeling. It just so happens that this subcommittee, landed on a scenario you really liked right away. It seems like the public is quite receptive to it too, which is great to hear. Hopefully we will never need to look at other scenarios, but considering we have the budget for it, as well as, you never know what could happen, even if the town really likes it and all the citizens are for it, there could be some unforeseen issue with the state. So since we have the ability to do it, it is wise to at least do a little bit of modeling in the background. So we have something in the back pocket and sort of know what that is. I feel like that's probably the best thing I can be doing for you folks right now. I know that Judy, the owner of our firm, has been going back and forth with Rob about some draft language. So in the meantime, while that's happening, I think this would be a good time for me to be working on a little bit more modeling for you folks just for security. So my main purpose in being here was just to sort of bring that conversation to the forefront. I don't have a fancy presentation or anything. I just wanted to help get you thinking about what one or two more areas to model might be. So the first thing I would think about is the general approach. So far in selecting these other sites, you looked at where existing multifamily was and, started there as a basis for your zoning. And that seems to have worked out well. So one way to do it would be, are there any other additional sites like that you could also consider in the same vein? Or you could decide, for this backup scenario, we could go a different route. Is there somewhere, relatively less developed that development might be appropriate? And I will leave that totally up to you. That's a local decision, but I just want to help, get your brains going on that. So just I'd love to hear like what your initial thoughts are. Like, did any of you have any sites that maybe you were thinking about initially that we never got to? Like where are your heads at on this? I'm curious.
So I do think it's prudent to come up with some potential backups, just because if our plan doesn't pass or it does pass and the state says, hey, this really isn't within the, intention of the zone, whatever happens. I think it's good to have the models run, because then we could call a special town meeting before the year ends and get one more try at it if we, worst case scenario. I mean, I know a couple of landowners have come forward and come to the meetings, kind of proactively. I personally don't, we don't have any other quote unquote dense housing that makes sense, in my opinion, to overlay. So I guess I would defer to Rob if he had any sites in particular that he would want you to run the model on.
Yeah, Bill, I know you're about to speak. Did you want to go before I?
I can wait till you're done.
You can go.
Okay.
Yeah, by all means, go ahead.
I look at this as, I apologize for my background. Like a competition. We want to give our best shot. And our best shot's our first shot. And I think we want something in our back pocket. In the event, as you said, if it fails, we can pivot quick. But I don't want to spend a lot of time on this, because if the state gets wind that, oh, you were thinking you got plan B and C, and we present A, it doesn't look good.
No.
We need to be all in, like it's, I'm sorry, for me, the lacrosse, you're all in with the plan until it breaks down. And then you can pivot to something else.
To play devil's advocate, though, I do think some towns have brought multiple plans forward to
Yep.
town meeting. And
Okay,
then whatever got voted through was what they chose to go with, if I'm not mistaken, Sarah, or maybe I'm kind of misremembering.
Yeah, so different towns have had different approaches. I don't think any of our clients have brought multiple selections to town meeting, but they
okay.
have in the initial outreach stages been like, hey, we've got these 3 ideas, what
I
does the
see.
public like? I think Bellingham's approach so far really like championing one idea. I don't think that's wrong. I think that's a perfectly valid approach. You seem to have, accurately taken the pulse of your town because the residents seem to be liking it so far. So I think there's absolutely nothing wrong with being like, this is our proposal, but yeah, like you don't even have to, whatever I end up modeling for you, if someone asks, you can say, we've had our consultant, come up with some contingency plans, just in case, but you don't it's up to you what you present to the public. I think that it's a perfectly valid decision to run with one main scenario, but like I said, it's good to, if the worst comes to pass, have something, at least in the preliminary stages, to pivot to. Like, I don't really anticipate even spending as much time as I did on the first scenario, but just like, if we need to pivot, it would be good for you to be able to say, all right, Sarah, it's time for plan B. Open the box and bring it out. And I would have something to run with,
Yeah, I guess my thought is I'm a little less concerned about it not passing, although that always is a concern. I'm more concerned that the state is gonna start looking at all these towns who are taking our same approach and somehow pivot and make it more difficult. So if we need to get in compliance by the, 12/31, we don't have to have Sarah start the modeling in November and we're like.
No, I totally agree.
Yeah.
But I think we need to look at pivoting for two reasons. The slim chance it is not passed
Yep,
at town meeting. And then sometime in November, or early December, we hear some concerns from the state and we have to pivot late in the
right.
process.
Yeah, and as Sarah said, outside of the subcommittee meetings, it's not something I think we would bring to an information session,
Correct.
other than to say, we had, consulting dollars left. The consultant has run a number of different scenarios for
I
us,
think that's
and
fine.
we just leave it at that.
Yep.
Yeah. I
Right.
have, oh, sorry, go ahead, Sarah.
But just being able to say that you don't have all your eggs in one basket, that I think is good.
Yeah. I can add, Jeff, before I go, I don't know if Jeff, you wanted to, if you had any thoughts, if you wanted to add anything.
I like the idea of having a plan B. I also like the idea of just sort of presenting what we have already and just saying that this is what we've decided, this is what we're going to go with.
So to that point, I think we're in agreement. What I would recommend is this. So I know that we put a lot of effort, and when I say we, I include our consultant, Sarah, who has helped out significantly, which I appreciate, trying to get our model to work and picking up these locations. We've received really good feedback from the public on what we have presented for the best approach. Going with another, like a option B, I agree that it would be beneficial. What I think would be, the only thing I'm concerned with is like, if we start going down the rabbit hole, trying to just pick out, a couple areas that might be a good plan B, and they're completely different than what we already had presented. Let's say down the road, we have to utilize plan B. Now I think there's a potential for a huge disconnect with the public. And I think,
Right.
I mean, based on everyone who's here, the information's been presented, people feel comfortable. If we went with a plan B and it was completely different, I think, yeah, that would be, that would be problematic, and I would agree with the public. So what I would recommend for a plan B, the two locations that we have the Charles and we have the Curtis. I think the Curtis apartment area has some potential because it is right next to 495. It's the closest portion of Bellingham that's near Forge Park, which is why we're required to meet the MBTA zoning. And there is residential houses currently, but they're on Blackstone Street. We're getting more into the municipal area where our fire, police, senior center is, and then going towards the center of town. The Charles, on the other hand, is pretty much smack dab it's on a busy road, but it is right near a lot of residential neighborhoods. So I would recommend, if we do look at a plan B, let's not look at scrapping our option A. Maybe we add on to option A, where we focus on the Curtis Apartments location. Option B is get rid of the Charles. We're at the Curtis Apartments. How can we expand that to be in conformance in that one area for the overlay? What are your thoughts? Maybe going a little bit towards Blackstone Street, there's some room there, maybe across the street on Mechanic Street, there's a couple locations.
I don't see anything wrong with going across the street.
Yeah.
You'll have to, obviously let the landowners know,
Yeah.
but I think that'd be fine. It's already there. And we're not
That's-
gonna have, if it happens, we're not impacting a lot of neighbors. We're impacting some businesses. And also, I think it's, to a degree, it may be attractive because we have shopping right there, walkable to the T, as opposed to Harvard Avenue, North Main Street. So I think option B, pivoting it, and keeping it to a small area, extending it perhaps on Mechanic Street and going to both sides and getting the buy-in, or at least approaching those landowners would make sense.
Sure.
I think there's a lot of land back.
Jeff has a comment.
Yeah, Jeff's got his hand up.
Hey there. I just was curious about what is the process that would lead us to having to present a plan B, right? So we're going to socialize the idea that we have already.
Yep.
We're going to have another meeting. We are going to, and then we're going to bring it to fall town meeting.
Yep.
To get, hopefully get a majority of people to approve it. At that point, it goes planning board, then board of selectmen, then back to the planning board. Is that correct?
That's before town meetings. It has to go to the select board, then the planning board, and then I think back to select board. And that's the process of getting the approval to get the warrant on the town meeting, or the article on the town meeting warrant. Then it
Okay,
gets voted at town meeting. And I think what I envision is there's a potential that this could potentially not pass at town meeting. If we've received a lot of positive feedback, so I feel pretty confident that this approach is really the best one to get the town meeting approval. I think the concern might be the state potentially saying, we don't like that for, whatever reason.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I'm a little less concerned, like if it doesn't pass, I'm not quite sure anything would pass.
That's a
So
good
we
point.
could make a last ditch effort with a different plan, but if the first one doesn't pass, I highly doubt a second one would, but we'd probably have to try. I'm more concerned because multiple people have kind of come up and said, hey, this seems too good to be true, like this seems like it's skirting the system. So if the state ends up feeling the same way,
Mhm.
that's my bigger concern. Like if it doesn't pass, it's probably not gonna pass a month later, but just to be,
Yeah, so,
I agree, but I
so
also.
my
doesn't
my
pass.
concern,
oh, sorry, go ahead, Jeff.
my concern was that, so it goes, it passes town meeting.
Yep.
It goes to the state. And at that point, the state says no.
Mhm.
Right, and then Sarah, what happens then? Is it remanded back to us for alterations? I guess it depends on what they denied it for, but
Yeah, essentially, yes. Off the top of my head, it's possible there's some like leeway, grace period. Maybe you wouldn't automatically be instantly out of compliance, but essentially what they would probably do if they had a serious problem with it, which I mean, obviously I don't anticipate. I wouldn't leave you with something that I
course.
anticipated that for, but that the state reviewers, the state can change its mind. It's allowed to. In that case, they would probably, send some sort of detailed letter being like, these are the issues we have. I suppose the ultimate ask would be, please adopt zoning that addresses these issues. So they'd probably, if they found something really unacceptable for whatever reason, they'd probably ask you to go back to town meeting and try again.
So we would get a letter back from the state with some suggestions. We'd probably go back into committee. We would then try to, do you think that we'd be able to have some back and forth at that point with the state to kind of to make sure that what we were going to prepare to address these things might be palatable to them, rather than continue our process through another town meeting, et cetera?
Yeah, I mean, I would certainly hope so, but I think that's gonna depend on their capacity. If they're overwhelmed, they might just say, figure it out. Hard to say. Just because the bulk of the deadlines have not passed, there were like, less than 24 rapid transit communities. The bulk of the review is coming. So we don't know exactly how the state will handle when the next 100 all submit their applications at the end of this
Right,
year.
right,
It's sort of hard to say how they'll administratively handle it because
sure.
they haven't been in that situation yet.
Okay.
So
Guess we'll wait and see. Thank you.
yeah, that like with a lot of things about this law, there's a lot of wait and see.
I think we're looking at, as I said earlier, two pivot points. Number one, if it fails the town meeting, I do think we have to take another shot before year end.
Yep.
I also think if a town says no, it'll probably fall into 2025. Because they're gonna have so many towns having town meetings in September, October, and November. They're gonna be overwhelmed. So we may not hear until conceivably April if they don't like it. At that point, we already have a plan B. So when they tell us no, we can quickly reboot. Set up a separate one item town meeting. And we propose another idea like you want.
Yeah, and I think doing a little bit of legwork now to just say, hey, it meets the compliance model, we got the 50 acres and it meets whatever model that Sarah has. Just do that, and like Jeff, I would agree that, there's no need to publish that because we have no interest in pursuing that at this point. We're pursuing what was presented to the public.
Right.
That's what we're pursuing, and when the time comes, if Plan B needs to be an option, then reconvene as the subcommittee, and we have option B, and who knows, might need to be an option C, you never know, but, we don't want to cross that bridge if we don't have to, and we feel like we have a good plan that meets the model, so.
I like the comments Sarah made, and usually I agree, we don't like to do this. But all our eggs are in one basket.
Yep.
Yeah, so I do like your suggestion about keeping it to an area that's closest to the train and is where we already have dense housing. So I'm, I don't think we need to vote, but I think, you can work with Sarah on kind of what your thoughts are to come up with a hopefully not needed backup model.
No, I think that's the best approach would be to do, I agree with you completely.
Okay, comments from the audience? Yes.
I was wondering if anybody looked into the acreage around Oakwood. That's a section 8 realtor under the assumption. By doing that, you can build new housing and have affordable housing ready at the same time. If that's a feasible thought, I have no idea. It's just something I just thought of.
You said Oakwoods, right? Is that what you?
Oakwood.
Yeah, I believe that one, Oakwoods is near the Charles, but that one is separated by, I think it's Circle and Farm.
Circle K or something?
Circle, the
Circle C.
the Circle C. Well, we would get it eventually. We had a few more letters to get through, but Circle C. So with that, I think the issue that we were having was to make sure that we had the contiguous 25 acres, which if we encompass both of those, it would most likely have to encompass the campground as well, which would most likely be developed to the maximum extent practicable that the regulations state, which, I mean, it could be an option. I don't know if that necessarily would be what we want, because that would be a lot more traffic in that area. I think High Street is right over there, which is a tough intersection. If there's a way to, I don't know if that one is 5 acres.
It's about a half mile away.
Yeah,
Maybe just look into it.
yeah, I can look into it.
And
Yeah.
see
What
if
I
there's
was
anything.
thinking is, if you're gonna go to a landlord and he wants to keep his property at the same standard, and you have to build affordable housing, even if it's 10 or 15% less. If you get it over by Oakwood, it'd make it more palatable for everybody.
No, it's an option. I'll take a look, see what we got around it too.
The Charles includes the parcel adjacent to it, correct?
Correct, there's like a crescent shaped parcel behind it.
Now, if somebody was creative, could they develop that separate from the Charles?
I believe there is access from 126, but the way that crescent is with the wetlands, it would be pretty tricky.
Why, it's a creative.
Yeah, I mean, if there's a will, there's a way, right? Yeah,
There's some wetlands back there too.
there are, correct.
So you gotta be 100 feet from that.
I think Bellingham has a 25-foot no disturb, and then if you're within 100 feet of the wetlands, you're required to go through permitting with Conservation Commission, so. Which is, that's a hurdle that you have to take.
Okay,
So I just want to make sure I'm understanding something correctly. If, and it's to Sarah or to Liz or Bill, if the state does not approve, we do get a letter of disapproval of not passing. Do they tell us why? Do they tell us specifically what we didn't do that they wanted done so that we can, did I understand that that's what they do?
Yeah, I see Sarah nodding her head, so.
Yep, that is my understanding as well, that they should provide a pretty detailed summary of exactly what the issue is. So obviously, we don't want it to come to that, but if it does, the path forward should hopefully be clear.
But as of right now, Sarah, no town has received a rejection from the state, right?
I believe that is true. I do believe they've been a little lenient in like not sending a formal rejection, but like sending a letter, just like we have some concerns, maybe resubmit this. I don't think the state is really looking to reject these proposals, like, and obviously I cannot speak for any of the reviewers, all this is sort of still speculative at this point, because I think they've been dealing with some like preliminary like approval submissions as well as the rapid transit communities, but they seem willing to work with the towns. Like they want towns to adopt the zoning. They don't want to make it hard. So I think they will be hopefully willing to be communicative and go back and forth with the towns. That seems to be what they're signaling.
Okay. All right, so I think we have next steps on that, and we're all sort of in agreement on how to move forward with Sarah and potential backup modeling.
Yep.
So I think for us, next steps would be that, and I guess to circle back to like the Bellingham days, like if we're maybe Rob, maybe you or Amy could kind of look into that a little bit more and see if we can participate and, prepare for that if that's something we can do.
Yep.
And then we need to, you have any thoughts on next steps?
Yeah, so I can talk with Amy and people in town to figure out the Bellingham Days situation, which, Bellingham Days, that's the end of August, correct? Or is it mid-August?
8th to 9th to the 11th?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's coming up soon, so I was saying we should probably get a meeting in before that, if it makes sense.
just in case
Yeah, because then that way I can figure out the dunk tank for Bill. Yeah.
I'll be there, but not in the dump.
Okay, never mind that.
I think there's some other people we can
Yeah,
get.
it was worth a shot. But I'll look into that. The other thing too, as Sarah mentioned, Judy Barrett and I have gone back and forth. We do have the draft language.
Yep.
Right now, I'm gonna be working with Judy and town council to kind of refine that. I do think that it is going to be critical that once I have that to a point, which should be very soon, that is definitely going to be shared amongst the subcommittee.
Mhm.
And I want to discuss that at a public meeting, Cause just to kind of go over where we're at with that, that's probably the most critical next step
Okay,
at this point. And then I can also do the research for the town meeting to figure out the date, because at the next meeting, we should probably discuss the language for that warrant article and the outreach meeting, which I should have more information on when that should be.
yeah, and can we, see if Dennis could come to whenever, to our next meeting to kind of
Sure, yeah.
talk about some of the ideas we had, because it sounds like he's more in tune with deadlines for things and that kind of stuff.
Yeah, definitely.
Can I offer a date? If we're looking at the 8th, 9th, and 10th, we almost need to meet Thursday the 1st.
That was gonna be my suggestion, because
Okay.
we have zoning that night too, so I'll already be here.
I never leave here, so
Just,
I am always here. Yeah, why don't we do, so that's in 2 weeks.
yeah,
Does that make sense?
yeah, and if you're gonna be done with, the back and forth with town council and Judy, the first would be a good, I think we wanna get on reviewing that as a group,
Yep.
so if we have changes or things or concerns, that there's enough, time to turn things around.
Yeah, I think that makes a lot of sense. So we'll aim for, so the next meeting will be August 1st.
Probably the same time at 5:30.
Yes, because zoning is at 7.
Okay. And I will, I'll reach out, Sarah, you and I can chat, in the next week or so I'll throw some lots at you to figure out what I think might be a good idea, and, we can go from there. That works.
Yeah, sure. Sounds good to me.
Excellent. All right, then. So I think those would be the next steps then, I think, and.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, any other comments from the public? Yes,
If I go down to the library and the space is available, is it in the town's budget, pay for that space or the custodian or whatever
I-
that takes?
Don't think you have to pay for it, because it's a public meeting, but Rob can find out.
Yeah, I think.
Either there or here.
No, I'll
Yeah.
know when I will go down there, but who
yeah,
can I talk to about it?
I'm sure, Bernadette, yes, I was blanking on her name. Bernadette would probably know.
What I mean is, if there is a fee for like the custodians.
Oh, then follow up with Rob.
Yeah, yeah, why don't, maybe we can chat offline, we can figure something out, 'cause, yeah,
Good.
Come out of his paycheck.
exactly.
Yeah, I hate to commit to something and then find out that it's gonna come out of personal funds.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
Sometimes they're not where they should be.
If it's town-related business such as this, I don't think there
This
is.
is another town that wasn't good.
Yeah, no, I gotcha. Okay, so,
Yes.
yeah, I'll give you my
Yeah,
number.
thanks for the meeting.
okay, and then, do we want to approve the meeting minutes or do we want to wait?
You're more than welcome to the June 6th one. I know I reviewed them and, they.
Yeah, I didn't have any changes.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes, is heard.
Second motion.
Oh, there you go.
Okay, we have a first and a second. All those who are in favor of approving the meeting minutes from June 6th, please say aye.
Can we ask for names so we can make sure?
Yes, we will roll call. So
Bill O'Connell, aye.
Liz Bertholet, aye.
Jeff Skornavaca, aye.
Okay, so the meeting minutes have been approved.
Excellent.
So I will entertain a motion to close the public meeting,
Adjourn.
adjourn,
Yeah.
sorry. Adjourn our subcommittee meeting. You just need a second from Jeff.
Second motion.
Okay, all those in favor, state your name and please say aye.
Bill O'Connell says aye.
Liz Bertholet, aye.
Jeff Skornavaca, aye.
All right.
Okay, thank you all. for
Have a good night,
attending. We will
everyone.
see you on the 1st.
Will do. Thanks, Sarah.
Thank you.
Thanks all.
And I assume we'll have an answer by